right, hey there, Sam here with you on Monday, September 17th. And kind of sticking with our schedule here. So we've been doing updates on Bitcoin on Monday. Now I'm going to keep this relatively brief because my partner, Quan, put out a very detailed long-term analysis of Bitcoin last night. If you have not had a chance to look at that, as I always do, I want to encourage you to invest the time to work through that. His analysis is always very creative, very interesting, but also incredibly disciplined with regards to applying Elliott Wave. So would encourage you to watch that. But since we've had some movement this morning here, I'm just going to do kind of sort of a brief update here. But there may be some things that we can learn from what's happening today. Now, I will put this up here. I've been through this before. This is, it's really my attempt to try and simplify what's happening here. So this is an alternate that I'm kind of playing with here. Now it's not the most gorgeous Elliott count I've ever seen, but it's technically valid. It's really my attempt to try and simplify. So when you have this kind of complexity, sometimes I find that just trying to simplify and say what is the simplest possible explanation of what could be happening here, there can be some value in that. So I propose this alternate here, and the idea is that from our pivot up here, from our peak up at approximately 20K, we've got a clean 5-wave down, we've put in a B, and then all of this sideways action is just one giant ending diagonal. So it would, from our B high, we'd essentially have a 1, 2, the 3, the 4 in, and at some point down here, we're going to put in a 5. So the one thing with this we have to pay attention to is we know from our Elliott rule set that the third wave can't be the shortest wave. It doesn't have to be the longest wave, just can't be the shortest. So we have to pay attention to the distance if we're going to come down and take out these lows here. What are we there? It's 57.61. If we're going to go down and take out that low, we've got to pay attention to the length of the fifth relative to the third. So a simple way to do that is just, we'll grab our alternate price projection tool, if I can get that right on there. Bring it down to this pivot, and then you'll see here. So I have this yellow line marked down here as that's an invalidation point for that count. So it stays alive if we're going to finish this. If there's a reasonable possibility that what we've done is just put in an A, and now we've just put in the B, and we're going to go down for yet another A, B, C to finish the C wave here. So we'd be finishing this with this kind of a structure here, putting us down here to finish it on this last swing down here. So we'd have an A, B, C to finish the diagonal. So it's a contender. So we'll have to look at it as it relates to what we're doing today. But this is still alive, right? It's certainly possible. Most people are just dying to go A, B, C, D, E. But we're kind of running out of legs here. And if we're going to put in a new low here, again, emphasis now, if we're going to take out this lower band here of support, and we could draw it a couple of different ways, but just if we're going to take this out down here, well, then we start to lose that good symmetry we would want to see in an A, B, C, D, E. If we're going to break that low, then I think actually I'd lean into this count a little bit more heavily. And as most of you know from many of my videos here, I'm rarely looking for an opportunity to sell Bitcoin. I'm just looking for the next opportunity to be a buyer, and I don't think we're there yet. So with that said, let's take a look now here. Let me get this off of here at our shorter term structure here. So let's see where it's maybe easier for me. I think I have this. Yeah. So let's go. Let's take a look here. This is our last view. So this has got some detail in it. And the assumption is whether or not this is going to end up as we resolve this, if and when we ever get a pivot here and we get a trend change, right, which I propose to you is inevitable, that we will see whether we label this as an A, B, or this ends up being 1, 2. There's just a number of different ways we could count this, and it's just unclear until we get resolution. What we can see here is that it's not unreasonable to propose that this is some sort of an impulsive move down here from our last time we were up here at 8,500 approximately. That this was impulsive and that we have corrected that, and we've corrected it. It's a little harder to see here because I've got so much on here, but we've corrected it with this ABC. Right, so that being the ABC that corrects this impulsive drive down here is not an unreasonable count. So if we look at that, and again, I've shown this a couple of times, if we go swing high to swing low, well, we're in between. We don't quite make the 618. It is interesting that if we come down to this secondary shelf down here, that we go right into golden zone. So where are these important? It's all relative to our potential targets if we're going down here, right? Big if we're going down that low. So again, we got to pay attention to that alternate, to the count I'm proposing, watching for the length of this potentially this fifth leg down here. And just again, trying to pay attention to, as I will always tell you, we want to ascertain, what did the algos do last? Well, can we identify? Well, here's a footprint, so we've got a potential pivot up here. I don't like that it's not as technical as you'd hope, as has been the case through all the prior pivots, as we've had back-to-back golden zones here, and I could just be the market's weak enough here, and then we got this working towards it, and then the big sell-off comes. So it could be, it's just a sign of weakness in the market, but until we take out this 65 here, you've got to just go with the trend, which continues to be down. So we do get a little break in that pattern, in that if we're going to work from dominant swings. So then the question becomes, well, what happened here? So if I take this off now here on the idea that I'll leave it dominant swing to dominant, or dominant pivot to dominant pivot. Well, you can see how the targets line up down here. So we have our algo target down here, but then if we think about what we've done here from this one here, right, just going swing high to swing low, well, we came right to the 38. Some exchanges to the tick. So in a sense, we're weakening here. So we have we continue with this series of lower highs, right, as we work from our higher degree count. We continue with this series of lower highs. Yet this is somewhat suspect here, in that ideally you'd want to see this at the 50 for us to be confident that we had algos on board here. So it's a little tricky. Now, there still remains the possibility, and I proposed this I think on Friday's last video I did, that we had the possibility for something along these lines. And maybe we'd come down here, we're going to get a deep B wave, and then we go up here. Now we get to the 50. You see this low volume node here. Now we get to the 50, and then there's the push down. Well, that is still a contender here because of the shallowness of this retracement, but we're going to have to see how this resolves. Now, with that established, let me go down. Let's go down to a 30-minute and see if we can make sense of what's happened here today. So let me get this up here a little bit. Okay, so here's our pivot down here. So the count that I've been proposing, which sort of follows up on Friday's video, is that what we have here now is an A, B, and another C here. So we look at that and we go, okay, well, one possibility is that that's just a more complex A wave. We're putting in the B before we go up to the C of the B. It's a possibility. But you see, the count here is fairly solid, working our way up here. So this A, so where we have lack of subdivision to really help us here is in this A wave. It's just a straight shot up. But then we're very technical, as I went through this on Friday. We get this perfect pivot here. So the length of the C, perfect parity with the length of the A. We get this ABC into a B. Then we get the clean 5 waves up for this C wave here. Yet we have the C coming in a couple of ticks shy of the 38. So it's unusually shallow. Again, it's not that it invalidates the count. If this is going to play as A and B is going to end up being here, because we're going to continue to work down, we're going to take out this low, then you'd have to move the B over here. So we have an A, B, C, and just a shallow B wave. Again, it doesn't invalidate the count. We're just in lower probabilities, lower percentage of B waves will be that shallow on the retracement. But given what appears to be more impulsive movement down, I think this is not an unreasonable count. So let me zoom in here a little bit more. So it occurs to me that what we may have here, if this is going to play as our B wave, well, then we're looking for 5 down in our C of this degree here. So if this is the A, B, C, the B is in, well, we're looking for 5 down. So it looks like we had considered the possibility that if this was going to be an A wave, that this was the A wave coming down, B wave coming down. See, I suppose that's still alive, but it looks to me like we've gone 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? Very bearish. So that would imply that we're just working through a series of motive waves here looking for some resolution to this. So if indeed, so if we work from this last pivot here, so in the larger degree here, we'd have 1, 2. Knowing we've got 1, 2, we're looking for an impulsive structure for our third. Well, I suppose here we could have an ending diagonal, but the first thing we're looking for is, do we have an impulse coming off of this pivot here? We went very deep for this proposed 2 wave here. So 1, 2, then I'm looking for my third wave. Well, this pretty severe rip down looks like I go 1, 2 yet again. So I continue to look for my 4, 5, and I'm just getting 1s and 2s. So if we're going to come back up here, so all I'm doing is taking this proposed pivot here as a 2 wave. So we've gone 1, 2. If the 3 is in, now I'm just looking for my 4 here. So I'm going to pay attention to these technical pivots here that seem to be significant. This 4 would be relative to this 1 here, which you see I've got that wicked off. So let's just do a little measuring and just think about it. So could that be the 3 low in? Well, if we take just the standard ops here, so we take the length of the 1, project from the 2. Well, we're through our high probability, haven't quite made the 2, 6, 1, 8. This may not be finished. There may be more legs on this, so we're still not down. So this could be, eventually we're looking for a 4, but we haven't seen anything resembling a 4 just yet. So if we're going to come back for the 4, 5, that would complete the 3. This all has to move over, right? You see all those 1, 2s implying lower prices, right? So if this is right, now we don't know for sure yet because we don't have a 4, 5 yet. We've just got a series of 1, 2. So if we've gone into the third here of this larger degree here in green, if we've gone 1, 2, and we're looking for that impulsive 3 of the 3, well, this 4 and 5, so this needs to complete here. So we have to get come here. This has to complete. We need this 3. We'd be looking for something like this to come down into our 5 to give us our third. A third here in green relative to this 1. Then we're looking for the exact same thing. So this can just move here, right? So then we're looking for that to come down and complete, we pull it over, the 5 of the third, right? Then we're looking for the exact same thing, right? So we're looking for, so for short sellers, there's potentially now a lot of opportunity here to be swing trading this on smaller time frames if we're going to stay this weak. So a consistent series of, so as I just showed you here, so we can take it from this one to this one to this one. A lot of opportunity for short sellers here if we're going to stay weak. Right now, it's very hard to argue for any sort of a pivot down here to support the resolution of this entire series of corrections. There's nothing I can hang on to down here to show me a buy other than, the old, well, Bitcoin, if we're going to get under 6,000, boy, it could be once in a lifetime. Well, that's certainly not a technical approach to the market. That's just, well, if you like it here at 6,200, you're going to love it at 5,200. I don't see any evidence to support a buy just yet. It's just we have no resolution, right? I was a lot of people in the Twitter sphere suggesting that the low is in on Bitcoin. I cannot resolve it. There's no way to. I don't even know how they could come up with that, right? So it's not technicians giving that. So if you're coming down here, we'd have to be finishing here, meaning we'd have to have a truncation. So if I go back, here's a 3 hour. I don't know how people are coming up with the idea that we've bottomed here, right? Or here. How are we finishing here? Truncation? It seems very, very unlikely. So this looks to me like there's still more to go. We've got these big numbers down here that we've highlighted several times, the big one being down here around 5,300. This is still not to be ignored, right? So if we look swing high, swing low, right? I mean, shit, for all, who knows, right? Algo may have sold that and they're pushing for this target. It's very hard to know, right? So we can't be certain about it because we didn't go to the 50 and the 618 where we know an algo is written. So shit, who knows how many algos are in the market. This is just the one that we can track. The fact that we only get to the 38, wouldn't be the first time we've seen it. So for me as a long-term bull, I just see absolutely no evidence of any kind of a low, no matter what count I put on this. There's just no way to count this as the low being in, at least with an Elliott Wave approach to it. unless you're really going into very low probability events of this being some sort of truncation down here, and that this were a 1-2. It seems highly unlikely. So how do we confirm? When do we know when we're out of the correction? Well, at the very least, we're going to have to break this series of lower highs. We're going to have to get a higher high, and we're going to have to break one of these significant algo levels. So if just working from this last swing, we got to get up to 7,600. We got to break that 65. Then at least we can get an algo on our side. So that, right, as I've shown you many times, if we were to come down here, if we were to get up here and break this, well, now we know we've got an algo that's going to be written to buy the first 50 on the way down. We're not even close. There's been no signs of it anywhere. So sorry to tell you that, my fellow bulls, I got nothing for you. Right? So either you stay long and strong and you just ride it out, or you're out of the market. Or if you're comfortable with the short selling, I see lots of opportunities for ongoing short selling here. So that's the advantage of having a team of people that work with me. So my partner is a specialist, right? He's been absolutely crushing the short sales of Bitcoin, right? So we've got members having just a remarkable success. So while I personally am not in there shorting Bitcoin, for swing traders that are comfortable with that, we can certainly help you there. So something to keep in mind. So with that, I will wrap it here. For fellow bulls, patience is your friend here. We just have to wait. We've got to wait for one of these 65s to get broken. And then maybe on that first 50, we can start to sharpen up our bull horns. Until then, either on the sidelines, waiting for the next short, or you're just a hodler. All right, guys, that's all I've got for now. See you later.